Please stand and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This meeting has been noticed in compliance with the South Carolina Freedom of Information Act. This commission acts in review and recommending capacity for designations and removal of historic properties and districts. The commission also reviews proposed National Register of Historic Places nominations. The commission has final decision-making authority on certificates of historic appropriateness. Good afternoon. My name is Chair Donna Gardner. I am chairperson, and seated to my right is Commissioner Anna Johnson, Commissioner Amy Gerard, Commissioner Lisa Jones, and Commissioner Melanie Millar. To my left is Vice Chair Commissioner Michael German, Commissioner Pat Jones, and Commissioner Ian Ford. Also seated to my right is Assistant County Attorney Mark Bell, and seated to my left is Andrea White, Interim Director of Zoning and Planning. Andrea, please introduce your staff.
We have Nikki Grimble, our Interim Deputy Director, Emily Piggott, and Monica Eustace, who will be presenting cases today. Stephanie Ondo. We also have Carrie Vache with our Site Plan Review Division, and Kyle Foster, our arborist, sorry. We have our summer interns are sitting in the back of the room, so this is their first meeting. And then from our Public Works Department, we have Eric Adams, who is the Director of Public Works, and Chris Wanamaker, who is with Stormwater.
Thank you, Andrea. I would like to remind you that in order to get a good recording of the meeting for the minutes, please speak loudly and clearly into your microphones. The first item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes for the May 20th, 2026 meeting. Is there a motion and a second?
I motion to
second. The roll.
Commissioner Lisa Jones? Aye. Commissioner Ford?
Aye.
Vice Chair German?
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson?
Aye.
Chair Gardner?
Aye.
Commissioner Gerard?
Aye.
Commissioner Pat Jones?
Aye.
Commissioner Millar? Aye. The ayes have it.
Thank you. The next agenda item is HIST 04-26-00188, a request for a certificate of historic appropriateness. Monica, please discuss.
Thank you. This is a certificate of historic appropriateness request for the construction of an early learning center addition to the existing James Island Elementary School at TMS 334-07-00047, 1872 South Grimble Road, a property within 300 feet of the W. Gresham Meggitt High and Elementary School, which is listed on the National Register of Historic Places. Built in 1951, the W. Gresham Meggitt High and Elementary School was established to uphold the principle of separate but equal education for the remote African American community on James Island. The formation of a public high school afforded African American children on James Island educational possibilities that were previously unattainable. The school had 3 expansions in the 1950s and 60s to meet the rising student enrollment until the desegregation of the school system in 1969. It is also notable for its modernist architecture influenced by the international style. The W. Gresham Meggitt High and Elementary School was listed on the National Register of Historic Places on February 20th, 2018. This project is a proposal to build a 23,000 square foot, 1-story early learning center addition to the existing James Island Elementary School. The project also includes new playgrounds and parking, improved traffic circulation, and associated improvements to utilities and stormwater management. The total impervious surface coverage for the lot would be 25.4%. There are no contributing resources on the subject property. Recent applications include a conceptual plan workshop held for the Historic Preservation Commission on December 17th, 2025, and the site plan review application for the new 23,000 square foot early learning addition, which received conditional approval on March 27th, 2026. A Board of Zoning Appeals application, BZA 04-26-00972, was approved on June 1st, 2026, for the removal of 3 grand live oak trees. The board concluded that the removal of tree number 7, a 29-inch grand live oak, was unwarranted according to the requirements of Section 3.10.6, as viable design alternatives exist that permit its preservation with minimal intrusion. The board mandated the protection of tree number 7, permitting a maximum intrusion of 50% into its critical root zone. The applicant must amend the construction plans to incorporate this requirement and submit the revised plans to the zoning and planning staff for evaluation and approval before the zoning permit is issued. Please note that the site plan will not substantially change to account for the 1 tree that will not be removed. Here's the location of the subject property when looking at the county as a whole. This map shows the subject property's proximity to the W. Gresham Magnet School. The subject property is zoned Special Management S3 and is the site of an existing elementary school. The future land use designation is Urban Suburban Cultural Community Protection. Surrounding properties to the north are either zoned S3 or PD 92, or are in the city of Charleston and contain the W. Gresham Magnet High and Elementary School, a cemetery, or are vacant. Properties to the east and south are zoned S3 and contain single-family dwelling units, a cemetery, or the Baxter Patrick James Island Library. Properties to the west are in the city of Charleston and are undeveloped. The subject parcel is in the shaded X flood zone. Here's an aerial view of the subject property. These are photos of the subject property on South Grimble Road and photos of surrounding properties. This is a photo of the neighboring property, the W. Gresham Magnet High and Elementary School at 1929 Grimble Road. This is the proposed site plan showing the 23,000 square foot addition along with new playgrounds, improved traffic circulation, and associated utility improvements. This is the aerial map with the proposed site plan overlaid for context with the proposed addition circled in blue. Here are the proposed front and left side elevations and the proposed right side and rear elevations. This is a rendering of the entire site with the early learning addition shown in the upper right-hand corner. And this is a site rendering from the east showing the front and left facades of the early learning addition. The existing James Island Elementary School is shown on the left. This rendering shows the front and left facades of the proposed addition. These are the items for commission consideration that are included here for your reference. These are the proposed findings of fact. The property is TMS 334-07-00-047, 1872 South Grimble Road. 2, The proposed addition to James Island Elementary School will be a 23,000 square foot, one-story early learning center. 3, improvements include new playgrounds, new parking, drop-off and pickup areas, improved traffic circulation, a new entrance to the bus area, a new right turn to the existing entrance drive at the Carla Street intersection, and associated improvements to utilities and stormwater management. 4, the subject property is located within 300 feet of the W. Gresham Meggitt High and Elementary School, which has been listed on the National Register of Historic Places since 2018. 5, materials for the addition include red utility brick, green standing seam metal roofing, and aluminum storefront windows and doors. 6, the low-profile massing and understated classical influences of the metal gabled roofs and covered entry porticos replicate the classic schoolhouse features seen at James Island Elementary School, consequently establishing a unified visual character across the site. 7, a conceptual plan workshop was held on December 17, 2025, where the same plans were presented. No comments on the design were received. 8, the rear portion of the W. Gresham Meggitt property is heavily wooded, as is the buffer between the subject property and the National Register site. 9, the closest that any new work will be to the W. Gresham Meggitt property is 270 feet, with the majority of the work being greater than 300 feet to the property line. 10, no negative impacts to the W. Gresham Meggitt High and Elementary School have been identified. The applicant did provide responses to all the approval criteria. Proposed conclusions of law include number 1, Section 21-5I, approval criteria of the Historic Preservation Ordinance requires all of the following approval criteria to be met by the applicant. A, the proposed site improvements are compatible with the historic, cultural, and/or architectural character of the applicable historic property or historic district based on the National Register listing or the designation by County Council. B, the proposed site improvements do not decrease the historic integrity of properties containing identified contributing resources. And C, any negative impacts to the applicable historic property or historic district have been minimized and mitigated. Number 2, because of the findings of fact, particularly numbers 2 through 7, the proposed site improvements may be compatible with the historic, cultural, and/or architectural character of the W. Gresham Meggitt High and Elementary School. 3, because of findings of fact 8 and 9, the proposed site improvements do not decrease the historic integrity of the properties containing identified contributing resources. And 4, because of finding of fact 10, any negative impacts to the W. Gresham Meggitt High and Elementary School have been minimized and mitigated. Based on the proposed findings of fact and conclusions of law, staff believes the approval criteria may have been satisfied. Therefore, staff recommends approval of the application with the following condition: that all changes shall be processed pursuant to Section 21-5M, modifications to approved certificates of historic appropriateness of the Historic Preservation Ordinance. 2 comments in support of the request, along with 6 general comments unrelated to the request, were received as of June 15, 2026. And this meeting was noticed as required. Thank you.
Thank you, Monica. We appreciate staff's comprehensive report. Are there any questions for staff from commission members?
Oh, I do have one. I just want to get clarification. How many comments did you receive? You said 6, was it?
There were 8 total. 2 were in support and 6 were general.
6 were general. You had no opposition.
There were no comments in opposition related to the request before you. The 6 general comments had to do with the Evergreen Cemetery, development pressures on settlement communities, traffic, infrastructure, stormwater, and wildlife habitat.
Okay, so why are you saying that there's no opposition? Because,
There was nothing related to the W. Gresham Megget School. And, yes,
okay, all right, well, thank you for the clarification there.
yes, ma'am.
If there are no further questions for staff at this time, we will now hear public comment. Will be limited to 2 minutes. Please state your name and address before giving your comments. Is the applicant or the applicant's representative present today? If so, please come forward.
Hello, my name is Chris Cook. I'm with ADC Engineering, 1226 Jamens Hall Road, Hanahan, South Carolina. And in realizing that we only have 2 minutes, I wanted to do a quick overview. And Monica, I was wondering if the exhibit that I sent to you, is that available? I think I wanted to give enough overview of what the project includes, and then be available, obviously, for any questions that we can answer related to any of the public comment received so far, or any questions that any commission member has. I really quick wanted to give, this is the location of the addition itself. The expansion that we're doing for stacking distances and a lot of other requirements that are necessary for this school site. Basically, we are currently have about 1,900 feet of stacking distance on the site for parent drop-off and pickup. We're increasing that to 3,000 feet to get the cars off of the local roads and onto the campus, and to better address that circulation and parking requirements. Additionally, we're adding a driveway at the back of the school back here, which is the location where all buses and staff will be entering the site. So currently, all traffic comes through the driveway down at the intersection with Carla Street, all traffic to the site. This will now be for parents pickup and drop off, and staff and buses will be using the new driveway located back here. It was also mentioned about maintaining distance to the historic property, which is one of our main focuses. You can see that this large wooded area here that is being left undisturbed, that is the common boundary with the Gresham Megget School property, is that property line there. And then additionally, in achieving county requirements for landscaping, there's a significant buffer that's being planted here, and that's actually in addition to an existing buffer that's already there. In some areas along through here, that is being supplemented, again, to help to buffer any other impacts that that property could have. One of the other items, I think we already gave you a rough idea of the square footage. It's 23,000 square feet. 200 students are the capacity of this addition. But just to let you know, 30 of those are actually already in the current school. So the increase in student load will be 170 students and 32 staff. We're providing 66 new parking spaces, which is the ordinance requirement. But then the district also wanted us to make sure we had overflow parking for any special events. So there are 40 additional grass spaces that are being provided to address any overflow requirements. And again, with our limited time, I wanted to turn it over to Michelle that can talk a little bit about the architecture of the building.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you. I'm not going to repeat anything that's already in the application. Our strategy from an architectural standpoint was to allow the existing building to indicate what the nature and feel of the addition should be. It is a one-story structure. It has gable forbs that are compatible with the existing school. It has its own entry that is meant to not compete with the existing main entry of the school. And we thought that the placement on the site was best to not only connect to the existing building, but to also create a safe and secure play area for the children. It seems like the most logical and straightforward location to place this building, as well as adhering to historic buffers and distances in respect of the Gresham School.
Thank you. Before you leave the podium, please state your name and address.
Michelle Smith, 850 Morrison Drive, McMillan, Pasden Smith. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Jasmine Shaw, 3999 Bridgeview, Charleston, South Carolina, 29405. I represent the school district as Executive Director of Capital. I, too, will not repeat everything within the application, but I'm here just to say thank you for seeing our application. We really appreciate it. This particular school, this particular point in the process is our last point to be able to then construct this new addition. We, within Charleston County, have a need to serve over 700 early learners, and this provides at least, like Chris mentioned, 180-something students to be able to serve that need that we have within the James Island area. So obviously, as you can tell, we really need this approval tonight. Thank you for your time.
Your comments.
Elizabeth Singleton.
Oh, are there any questions from commissioners for the applicants?
Yes, I have a question. First, I want to be clear on how many students we're talking about that would be allowed in the new building, because I've heard, I think, 280 the last time you all were here, and now I'm hearing 200 and just maybe 180. So how many students are you expecting to have?
Yes, ma'am. The capacity is for 200 students. And I'm pretty sure that is the same number that we did at the workshop in December. But it's 200 students. And what I was mentioning earlier is right now, 30 of those students are actually already in the building, in the existing building. So it's an increase in that number would be an increase of 170. But capacity is for 200 students.
Okay, and you did say you all have a new road that you expect to have used by all of the new students? Or is that going to be the main entrance to the back?
So the back entrance that's back here, that is for staff and for buses. That's at the back of the property right here. That's the new driveway there.
Oh, that's only for the staff and...
That's for staff and buses.
And buses.
Correct.
So no students, they're all going to be coming from the South Grimble side.
They will all be coming from South Grimble as they do today. But what will happen today, that bus loop comes up here and loops around right here at the front door. So it only has 1,900 feet of stacking distance. We're adding this extension and roundabout so that all of the parents in the drop-off loop will come around and back, and that makes that drop-off loop increase to 3,000 feet so that we get more of the cars off of the road onto the site. Then the Early Learning Center is actually, because of the age of the children, we actually have parking spaces along here. They don't drop those children off, they actually park, and we have extra large spaces where they can load and unload and escort the children into the building. So that parking is down at this end.
Okay, so I have one more question about that, the traffic, because I live right across the street and I've noticed that the cars are stacked up on the road, parked almost back to Folly Road.
Right.
And so I'm just wondering, if you had so much space, like you were pointing out here, that you're going to use to stack, why didn't you all work to get those cars off of the road so that they wouldn't still be stacking on South Grimble Road? But if you are going to now increase the parking for these 200 new students that are going to be coming there, how are you going to get all those cars in that area? I'm just not convinced of that part.
So, well, that is a significant increase on the amount of stacking that will be provided on site that was not there currently. Additionally, this lane that all the cars were stacking up in, there were buses in there also, there were delivery vehicles, there were a lot of other vehicles that were using up that space for stacking. And all of that traffic, the buses and any delivery vehicles and staff, will be using the back entrance, which is going to give more room for stacking in the increased stacking loop that we are providing. Thank you.
And the start time of the Early Learning Center is staggered, so it will begin later than the existing school to allow for some of that traffic flow to occur a little more easily.
Well, that would be helpful. Okay. All right, thank you.
Are there any more questions from commissioners? Thank you very much.
Elizabeth Singleton.
Elizabeth Singleton, 1833 North Grumble Road. First of all, if 455 letters were sent out, we don't have 455 people in our community. It's an old settlement community. That does not exist in our community. Number two, there was no traffic study. There was no community involvement. Something is wrong with this picture. Something is very wrong. I understand the need for community learning. I have no early childhood learning. The school board has an empty school at Camp Road where the old middle school was, the old James Idle Middle School. I suggested 2 years ago that they use that building, which would be no concerns to do any addition at either James Island Elementary nor Stiles Point. They said that they would get back with the community. I have yet to hear from them. It's not fair to either of the two communities. The Early Childhood Learning Center should be for the children in a very different type of atmosphere. And we, as taxpayers, have that available for the community of the children, the benefit of the children. And it's not fair. If we're going to do it right. Stop doing things in secrecy, and let's do it right. And there is going to be traffic concerns. That property cannot hold all of the traffic that they plan to put there. And that's a very serious condition that would impact the entire community and cause traffic accidents. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. As we go forward, and I appreciate the concerns that have been shared, but just want to clarify that our authority here is to review the historic, cultural, and or architectural character that is part of this project. So we're focused primarily on the architecture of the proposed case here. So we can have the next speaker.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
a question.
Mm-hmm.
While this is very important, I'm also a resident of James Island, so I can appreciate her concern. Can you tell me who they need to focus these questions and these concerns with? Because it's, I mean, as much as they are important,
Yeah.
it's not us.
Right.
So can you address that, please, or could staff please address that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, this is an allowed use. It's gone through the county's site plan review process. It went to the Board of Zoning Appeals, so this is the last step. So they're meeting all of the county requirements for this.
So is there any recourse at this point for these people saying that they did not get notification, et cetera, et cetera? Is there anywhere they can go to verbalize their concerns?
They can certainly send them to the planning department. this has gone, the drainage concerns have gone through Public Works. It's gone through a public process. We notified for this. I don't know that they said they weren't notified. They would have been notified for anything that went to the Board of Zoning Appeals or for this body. We send to a 300-foot radius and anyone on our interested parties list. So that's where that number comes from. Anything that is a by right approval process, like site plan review, is an in-house process that is not notified for because it doesn't have to come to a public body.
Is the DOT, Department of Transportation, responsible for this traffic study?
I would have to ask, did they do a traffic study as part of the site plan review application, Carrie?
I do believe they did, but I can check.
Okay, yeah. So we will check on that.
I appreciate that. I know what our intent is, and I just want to make sure these people's needs are met. So,
Thank you, Commissioner.
Yes.
I did hear that it was about 450 letters that went out, and you said it went out to about a 250 feet radius?
We notified by mail property owners within 300 feet of the subject property, and then we keep an interested parties list by area of the county. So anyone on there would have received an email notification of the meeting. And that's for Historic Preservation Commission, and that is also for the June 1st BZA meeting.
Because I did hear that as far as the zoning notice that was placed on the property was concerned, that the sign was down during the election time.
We post the no.
So do we have a way to monitor that to make sure that the signs are not taken down by somebody like during the election time?
So what occurs is there's something called a posted notice affidavit that the applicant has to sign, and that says that if they see that the sign is down, they will notify us, and we will come and repost the sign. But we do not have the staff capability to go out and monitor these signs when we post them. But we do post them. We put the date we posted them, and we take a picture and date stamp it so we know that they were posted on the proper date.
Okay, my last question is, I do believe in community input, and I wanted to know from the school board, did they go to that community and have a community meeting? If anybody could answer that for me.
Yes, we have had community meetings when we first started this project. We reached out to the community and had 2 large meetings. We also met the staff. We also have monthly Board of Trustees meetings as well. We've had several opportunities where we had increase in funding for this project, where we had to go to our Board of Trustees, which meets on a monthly basis. And my understanding, there were also some comments that came in through our general line that we also was able to provide answers to. From those meetings, you can find them on our website, and we list all of the questions that was asked. We provide a response for each and every question, and it's posted on our website.
So these meetings were at the James Allen Elementary School? Where were they held and when?
They were held 2023 when we first started to kick off the project. There was one in January, and we also did a second one in September. That's also posted on our website.
September of this year?
Of 2023. So it takes about a year to design, 2 years to build. But we have had some challenges. If you recall, this project started out as a center on James Island. The community wanted Stiles Point and James Island Elementary to have expansions instead, so it kind of slowed down the process. So that's why I'm referring back from 2023, because we did have some changes. And as you can imagine, we have talented staff and teachers at those individual schools, so it made more sense at the time to just do expansions at the existing schools where the talent lies than bring them all together.
Okay. What I'm hearing is not telling me what I asked about the community having a meeting, for the school board to have a meeting in the community. 2023 was probably your preliminary time that you started talking about this. So I wanted to know, once you got your plan together, did you go to the community and present your plan to the community? This board,
yes, ma'am.
A lot of times we are very concerned about when new development is going in the community, did the developer go to the community and show the community what you were doing, so we wouldn't have so much questions,
yes, ma'am,
about what is about to happen. If the people don't know about this, then they come to us, and as seems to be indicated right now, they're asking about questions that probably should be someplace else. But if you all had that meeting where you can address the community that is concerned, to me, seemed like that would have been a more appropriate and friendly way to let the community know of your plans.
Yes, ma'am. I really appreciate your concerns, and I will say again that all of that is presented on our website. When you pull up the briefing, you can even see the design plans that we shared with the community at that time.
Thank you so much for your remarks. I appreciate that. Just to stay on point, again, we're going to address issues that pertain specifically to the architecture of this application, as mentioned before by the interim director. For questions about the zoning, members of the community can certainly reach out to the planning department regarding any zoning questions. Our next speaker.
Patricia Dickerson.
I am Patricia Dickerson, 1956 North Grimble Road. And as far as the meeting concerned, in 23, I don't know any of my neighbors or myself that was notified about this meeting. And so we didn't have a voice or say into anything that happened. But my concern, I know y'all said is architectural, but my main concern with the project was the traffic. And right now, with just the students that's at James Allen Elementary, there's always a backup on Grimble Road. And also the issue that we're having is speeding cars that's coming through Grimble Road. In the morning, in the afternoon, midday, there's always traffic and there's always speeding cars. So that was my main concern. I appreciate it. And Ms. Anna spoke about that quite a bit, so I'm not going to talk the full 2 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Okay.
Lawrence Whaley.
Good afternoon. My name is Lawrence Ray Whaley, and I live at 1930 Grimble Road. And I do understand what you have said in terms of what the meeting is about, but I would like to present the board with what I'm about to say, and also a list of petitions which have been signed by members of my community. Again, my name is Lawrence Ray Whaley, 1930 Grimble Road on the lovely James Island, where in my backyard, aligned with the Dill Plantation Bird Sanctuary with the Gresham Megget, is across the street from my driveway. Around the corner is James Allen Elementary School and the Baxter Patrick Library. I'm back home, I'm retired military and also a retired chemical processing technician. And I am not opposed to childhood early development, but I am even more concerned with the survivability and preservation of what we enjoy as a community on Grimble. So much has changed in our community, and I am concerned that our identity may become displayed or displaced or lost because of developments. I am the elected president of the Grimble Area Improvement Association, and I'm in charge to moderate the concerns of the community. It was stated by the Charleston County School District during the last BZA board meeting that members of our community had been contacted regarding the addition to the school. This was an after the fact notification. And of course, you mentioned the Evergreen Cemetery, where the precious tenants and pioneers of Grimble are interned. I know that new drain pipes have been installed because I verified the work. Fresh green grass has been planted today. Has anyone thought of ground penetration to ascertain that my great-grandfather's grave was not dug up or discarded? Where is the paperwork? Do you think that matters to us? And it does. We are reasonable people and who have worked hard to maintain our heritage and efficacy of a viable community, and find it only fitting to have firsthand knowledge of planned changes that will affect our way of life. We know about the amount of students coming to the school and in our area, and we know that issues have been in place to mitigate the new entrants. Nonetheless, we know that parents of preschoolers will drive their kids to school, increasing the burden on our infrastructure.
Thank you for your
even more.
comments. Your 2 minutes has expired.
And for the record, I would like to provide the school district a copy of this letter so that they would know who to contact whenever there are different developments that's coming up in our area, because we have no knowledge of the information in terms of 400 letters being sent out and the reaction to that. So I offer the school district a copy of this letter for myself as a point of contact as the president of the Grimble Area Improvement Association, and my address, telephone number, and email address. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Next speaker.
George Proilo.
Good evening. I'm George Pillow, Jr., property owner and reside at 1550 Nathaniel Drive. That's located right on the same road with James Island Library. I understand where you say this board is designed to do specifically. The school district seemed to push all this through Charleston County Planning Department and all the other board, and when this comes to us or this comes to this board, the staff of Charleston County already approved and make a recommendation. Of all the things the engineer and everything talk about, none of them talk about the traffic at Foley Road, South Grimble, and Grimble Road Extension. That red light there is not like the red light at North Grimble Road and Fort Johnson and Foley Road and Griffith and Champ Road. That light does not have a traffic turn signal. If you trying to get out there, I live down there and I go out there all the time. Sometimes light turn 3 times before you could get on Foley Road when you make a left turn. That need to be addressed by the traffic study, because you could put 200 more cars on top of what you got, but we as residents of Grimble area have to deal with the aftermath from what people else make decisions for. Thank you.
Leroy Davis.
My name is Leroy Davis. I'm from James Island, and I go to most of the meetings that you normally be on James Island. And I always feel that everybody on the James Island needs to understand that when you're dealing with the school or whatever you're going to do in this on James Island. I had a light stroke, so I'm going to have to be a little slow about what I got to say. Okay? And that the people on James Island, we are concerned about what's happening in all of James Island, really. And when it comes to the school or education, they like to have it. But the people wants to know what needs to be said in that community or whoever's at that community. So it's hard for me to understand that if you're going to do something and you don't tell the people what's going on, they are lost in that community. So they need to talk about what's going on in that community right now. I'm just concerned, and being on James Island as a farmer and in the military, those things that I'm concerned about. Because the traffic on James Island is going to get worse, and it's going to even get even worse as time moves on, because people steady coming to Charleston and on James Island. That's all I got to say.
Thank you for your remarks.
Sam Spence.
Hello, Commissioner. Sorry for the long walk up. I'm Sam Spence from the Preservation Society. I think you all received a letter from my colleague also. I'm just here to underscore. The Preservation Society joins James Island residents and descendants connected to Evergreen Cemetery in urging the Commission to carefully consider potential impacts of the proposed improvements to the site's broader historic, and cultural context. While we recognize that the formally designated historic resource is the National Register listed W. Gresham Meggitt School, this is an important opportunity to acknowledge the broader history of the property and to take reasonable steps to avoid unintended construction impacts. Of course, we generally support the proposed early learning center addition as it continues the site's longstanding educational and community use. However, that support is contingent upon the school district's commitment to further investigation along the southeastern boundary to identify, document, and protect any unmarked burials before approval or any ground disturbance occurs. In short, the full extent of Evergreen Cemetery remains unknown. You'll see in the letter that you've received a 2022 ground-penetrating radar study conducted by Clemson students identified numerous unmarked burials along the Nathaniel Drive side, and field observations have noted a stone fragment near the boundary with James Island Elementary, suggesting that additional burials may be present. A targeted ground-penetrating radar survey in this area is a practical first step to avoid impacts. We ask the staff and the applicant work together to complete this limited survey before any further site work proceeds. Thanks.
Thank you.
Barbara Goss Brown.
Good afternoon. My name is Barbara Goss Brown. I live at 1026 Riverland Drive, Charleston, South Carolina. My concern is that the early learning center, the traffic that's going to be coming on to South Grimble Road, this traffic not only affects them, it also affects us on Riverland Drive. Contrary to what they may say, I don't know whether DOT did a traffic study, but these are all things that concerns me as a resident of James Island in Charleston County. The other thing is, like the gentleman before me said, my biggest concern also is the tearing down and the destruction of the beauty of what we are accustomed to on James Island. Every time they take down a live oak, every time they go in and they destroy our scenery, it takes away from what we as a community is accustomed to. I have 103, and I understand about the Evergreen Cemetery, but just let me tell you, I have 103 relatives buried there. I went there the other day and I cried. The scenery that I was used to seeing when I go into that cemetery was not there anymore. The cemetery is a relaxing place for some people. When you go and you cut all the trees, you take away all the bushes, all you can see is a school. We need to keep some boundaries in place to keep what actually belongs to us as a black people in place. We have been, it's been a long time, and it's time for somebody to say enough is enough. The powers to be still has and think that they have the power to do whatever they want to do in our communities, the black community. It's time for us to stand up and say, enough is enough. We're not taking it anymore. I walked away before, but I'm not walking away again. I understand the Historical Society. I know what you guys are all about, but I want you to reconsider our cemetery, Evergreen Cemetery, and the other black cemeteries on the island. That is
Thank you
of
for your
historical
comments.
importance. Thank you.
Chris Cook. Oh, you've already, okay, very good. That's it.
That's it. Okay. Okay, if there are no further comments, this case is now closed to public comment. Before discussion, is there a motion and second from the commission? When making a motion, please propose how the findings and conclusions show whether each specific approval criteria has or has not been met.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
before the motion is made, do we have the ability to question our role? I know it's architecturally based, but do we have the right to question the relationship with the cemetery? Is that relevant? Is it part of the culture? Is it part of the historic designation? Because I think, in my opinion, that's very important. Maybe Mr. Bell can answer that.
You know, and at this time, you know, and I understand the community's concern and whatnot, but to our knowledge, you know, and it's not really pertinent to this application. This application is about the design of the proposed early learning school.
There's an impact based on where the graves are located and proximity possibly to, and I know I asked a moment ago to be shown where the cemetery was located, and it looks like it's in the front of the school. Is that correct? Not on the backside where Gresham Meggitt School is located, correct?
Right.
But do we know for sure proximity of the graves? We know that they're all there? I mean, that's the study that this gentleman said was made. I just want to make sure that I know what my scope is.
Understandable, and again, then the scope of this body, and then is whether or not the design that's being presented and is appropriate, and in light of all the other architecture that is in the surrounding area.
I do want to ask a question too, just to follow up on Commissioner Millar's concern. So, with the graveyard being so close to the building of the new school, shouldn't there be some kind of GPR study done first before they come to us with this? Because if it's not, if there's graves on the property, we have no idea how they're going to handle that. How close is it going to be to the building? I don't see why that can't be a simple thing to have done before the building is constructed. I can't approve something that I don't have all the information about.
Ms. Johnson, I'm sorry to interrupt y'all. I'm Natalie Ham. I'm the county attorney. But I just want to remind this body that there are state statutes that regulate the preservation and determination with regards to grave sites. And so that obviously I recognize that you're concerned because of the community concerns, and I think that is very valid. I think that Mr. Bell has articulated pretty clearly what your role is as a body, but I also want to just remind you that there are state statutes that protect those types of sites that I would presume, obviously I've not had a conversation with the school district, but I presume that they're subject to those same statutory protections when they're engaging in, whatever construction that they are engaging in.
Thank you. Thank you. But, I want to follow up, though. Although there are some statutes that reference the graves and buildings, how can we vote on allowing a building to be built if that hasn't been clear? Because I have not heard anything about a study being done already.
Well, Ms. Johnson, I want to remind you what the purpose of this body is. And I recognize that there are other things that perhaps you all would like explored in some capacity. Unfortunately, that's not within your purview as a member of the Historic Preservation Commission. Your role is to, take into consideration this applicant's application with regards to the standards that have been put in place by Charleston County. So I hear you loud and clear. I understand your concerns. I understand their concerns. Unfortunately, those concerns cannot be addressed by this body.
So we may not be able to make a decision an informed decision if we don't have all the information to be able to do that.
You have all of the information for the decision that you are empowered to make.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. With that clarification, is there a motion and second from the commission? Please make your motion by proposing how the findings and conclusions show whether each specific approval criteria for this commission has or has not been met.
Well, I'd like to make a motion to defer. I think that a lot of us are still concerned about this project, and we need more information.
Ms. Johnson, as much as I would like to agree with you, I think that we've been explained that this is not our role, and our role is exactly what we have been told it is, and whether, again, we like that or not with our historic preservation status, that still is our role. So I guess you have the right to, deny it, but I don't understand how we could defer it. And again, I would ask for some clarification on that, if that's even an option.
I'm going to go ahead and second it just for the purpose of discussion so that we have a motion on the floor.
Okay.
The motion to defer has been made and properly seconded. Discussion from commission members.
So that's my discussion. And Mark Bell, again, I believe you've been very clear. So in that case, is there a position that we have to defer?
Before, I still think it's difficult to vote on something when I don't have all the information that I need to have to vote to support it.
Commission members, I do understand the concerns and sentiments that everyone has up here. But again, the purview of this body is whether or not the application is appropriate for the historic design that it's seeking to get approved. And staff has presented you the full application that has everything regarding the design and how it will look, how it fits into the neighborhood. So it is staff's belief that, unless there's something design related that has not been presented by the applicant, this body has all the information that it needs to make the decision that it's empowered to make.
I do just have a question, I guess, and that is on the site itself, which is what we're discussing for the Certificate of Historic Appropriateness, is the Early Learning Center site. How does our role play into the question of whether or not there are graves on that site? Because the cemetery is right next to it. And so is there a way that there could be some sort of action plan in place that where if construction begins on this site, there is a plan if they hit a grave site? Because I know that there are state statutes, but that is for known cemeteries.
Sure. Can I speak?
Mm-hmm.
Can I answer that question?
Yeah.
Madam Chair.
Yes, we can hear from you this time.
So, again, Chris Cook. I just want to share some information about, so for this project and a lot of projects that are in the coastal zones of South Carolina, the 13 states along the coast, we regularly have projects that there is a potential for archaeological and grave and remains. This project already, it's in the plans that have already been submitted both for HPC but also for site plan review. I'd like to share with you, if I have permission to share this. This is the actual requirements that are on the first page of our construction documents that have already been submitted and that the contractor is required to follow. And these are related to archaeological notice to the contractor. It tells them everything they're supposed to do in the event that they discover anything, any graves, any remains. It gives the names and phone numbers for all the people that they are to contact, and they are required to cease work immediately in the event that they encounter any of those items, okay, or anything like that. So I have copies of that. It's right off of the documents that were submitted. And I did highlight a few things, but it's a pretty extensive requirement that's in there. It does involve SHPO, State Historic Preservation, the coroner's office. Of course, the district, as the owner, is informed. Whenever something like that is encountered, it is immediately stop work. They cordon off a 50-foot area around whatever it is that is suspect, and we've had projects where suspect has turned out to be nothing. And there are projects where it has turned out to be something, and the work stops until all the appropriate parties are brought together to determine what the best course of action is. So I'm sorry, I just wanted to answer that question about there is already a plan in place on how to handle these things if they happen, okay? And that's if.
Okay. I've got I don't know if we can ask questions. I do have just a little bit more clarification. I hear what you're saying here, but my concern is, my question is, you're doing this after the fact. Is there any avenues that you can take to resolve this with some type of research, ground penetrating radar, to eliminate that before you even get started? I think that's a concern, and that would make me feel a bit easier in making a decision. I know it's out of our realm, but can you do something else just to satisfy that, to ensure that they are not any graves in that area? And my question is, why, we're going to disturb something and then we're going to find out it is. And to me, to do that is kind of, I think we can find a better way to move forward than the digging and the discovery. And if there's an application or way we can just do this prior to, I think would help this project move along probably quicker.
Sure.
But here again, I think that's out of our realm, in trying to understand all this, but it is a valid concern. Thank you.
I want to make sure, am I okay to answer
Well,
that?
it has been closed to public comment. I'll let you make one last comment, and then we're going to move on because we did close public comment.
Okay. So I do want to mention, so one of the challenges in that is whenever we have something that causes there to be a concern, right, that there is some indication that there might be something nearby, we look into those things, and there are certain things that we can do. There's certain things we can't do. I'll just give as an example. Over the entire 12 acres of area that we're disturbing, we can't go out and do a GPR survey of all 12 acres, right? So that's the only way that I can tell you anywhere that there's not something there, right? It would be every project, every acre, every square foot would have to be scanned by GPR. But what I would say is we don't have an indication that we should suspect that there are grave sites on where the school district work is. If I could go back to that site plan. So everybody got in the public comments that you received, there was an image that showed the earlier archaeological work that was done out there, and it showed grave sites. That information in that letter itself indicates, so this is the cemetery right here. It talks about the potential for more graves to the west, which is this area over here. That is school district property. There is no work occurring in that area. This blue that you see is a area of work. Those are the limits of disturbance that have been permitted by Department of Environmental Services and Bureau of Coastal Management. That blue is where the work is. So there is no indication from even the earlier archaeological work done that there are any graves over this way. There is indication that potentially to the east that there are. The area to the north is a large Charleston County drainage ditch, easement and drainage ditch that cuts through that part of the site, and it's been there for as long as I could find in aerial photographs in the past. So we don't have an indication that would cause us to say, we need to go scan GPR in this area. We think most likely that those graves that are there and remains that are there are limited to south of that ditch, potentially to the west, but we're not working in that area. So we have protections in the documents and how we've told the contractor to proceed whenever that happens, but we haven't gone to the extent of doing an exhaustive scan. Sir, I hope that answers your question.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, with the information, commissioners, that we now have, there is a motion to defer on the floor. If there's no further discussion at this time, we will vote. Stephanie, please call the roll.
On the motion to defer, Commissioner Lisa Jones? Aye. Commissioner Ford?
Nay.
Vice Chair German?
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson?
Aye.
Chair Gardner?
Nay.
Commissioner Gerard?
Nay.
Commissioner Pat Jones?
Aye.
Commissioner Millar?
Nay.
The motion to defer failed with a tie vote, 4-4.
So, since the motion has ended in a tie vote pursuant to our rules and procedures for the Historic Preservation Commission, this item will be automatically placed onto our next agenda for the Commission's review and consideration.
Okay. The next agenda item is HIST-03-26-00182, a request for a certificate of historic appropriateness. Gus.
Thank you very much. So as stated, this CHA request is for site improvements to convert an existing single-family dwelling unit to office use. Improvements include those for ADA access and vehicular and pedestrian mobility required to meet the zoning. Can you all still hear me? Okay, required to meet the zoning and land development regulations. There are applications that we have received to date within the Beefield Community Historic District. It's just 4, including this application today. Just a reminder that this community was designated as a historic district in May of 2022. The district covers roughly 56.9 acres. It's located on the southeast side of James Island and is included within a larger African American community known as the Grimble Farm community. This area is a significant source of military history. There were 2 important Civil War battles here, and also Union troops. They prepared their attack on Fort Lamar from this community. After the conclusion of the Civil War, 150 acres, known as the B Tract, were sold to Horace Rivers. And then in 1872, Sarah Rivers started selling that at public auction to several African American families. And the land that has been originally sold to these families has been continued to be conveyed to family members up to the present day. So the applicant describes that building-related work is limited in scope and includes the addition of an ADA-compliant wheelchair ramp and required egress lighting. No substantial changes to the building footprint, height, or massing are proposed. Site improvements will include elements required by the Folly Road overlay, including the installation of a multi-use path, associated pedestrian walkways, and landscape plantings. So here is the location of the property when we're looking at the county overall. Here is the location of the subject parcel in relation to the rest of the Beefield Community Historic District. And looking in a little bit closer, here it is along Folly Road. You can see that properties along this side of Folly Road are all included within the Beefield Community Historic District. So far to date, there have been 2 CHAs approved by the Commission within 500 feet of this property, including one on this property itself. So for the neighboring property, a wellness center was approved by the Commission, and you can see the proposed site plan and elevations here. And then for the subject property itself, the applicant had previously come forward with a detached garage and the removal of several unpermitted structures from the rear. So this was the approval that y'all gave them at that time. Right. So the subject property is zoned neighborhood commercial within the neighborhood preservation area of the Folly Road Corridor Overlay Zoning District, which is a mouthful. And it contains a single-family residential dwelling unit and that detached garage. The FLU designation is the same as its current zoning, so neighborhood commercial within that overlay. All surrounding properties within the county are also zoned neighborhood commercial within the Folly Road Corridor Overlay, and they contain single-family dwelling units and that personal improvement wellness service. Across from Folly Road, there is a City of Charleston property, and it's zoned planned urban development, and it contains short-term rentals. The subject parcel is in the AE10 flood zone. And here's an aerial view of the subject property. And please note this aerial was taken before the garage was built. And then here are images of the subject property. And then the directly neighboring properties along Folly Road. Here is the proposed site plan. And the proposed site plan overlaid onto the aerial map for context. And here you can see the only proposed improvement to the building, which is that ADA compliant access ramp. Included for your reference are the commission considerations. Staff proposes the following findings of fact. TMS 334-1000-056, also known as 1765 Folly Road. First, the Beefield Community Historic District has not identified any contributing resources, but was designated by County Council as a historic district with significant Civil War history, as well as importance as an African American settlement community, part of the larger Grimble Farms community. Next, the subject property contains an existing single-family dwelling unit and detached garage, neither of which are identified contributing resources to the Beefield Community Historic District. Following, the proposed site improvements include the addition of an ADA access ramp, ADA parking, and a gravel pedestrian pathway, expansion of existing gravel parking area, formalization of trash and recycling and bicycle parking areas, installation of a 6-foot wood fence and required landscape buffers, and construction of a 12-foot concrete multi-use path along Folly Road. All proposed site improvements are required to meet the zoning and land development regulations. And lastly, proposed site improvements will maintain the existing height, scale, mass, form, and relation of structures on the subject property and are not within any known archaeological areas of significance within the community. The applicant did provide responses to all of the approval criteria. And staff proposes the following conclusions of law. Section 21-5I, approval criteria of the Historic Preservation Ordinance, requires all of the following approval criteria to be met by the applicant. First, the proposed site improvements are compatible with the historic, cultural, and/or architectural character of the applicable historic property or district based on the National Register listing or designation by County Council. Next, proposed site improvements do not decrease the historic integrity of properties containing identified contributing resources. And lastly, any negative impacts to the applicable historic property or district have been minimized or mitigated. Because of findings of fact 2 through 4, the proposed site improvements are compatible with the historic, cultural, and/or architectural character of the Beefield Community Historic District. Because of findings of fact 2 through 5, the proposed site improvements seek to avoid negative impacts to the Beefield Historic District in the context of its designation ordinance. And lastly, because of findings of fact 2 through 5, any negative impacts to the Beefield Community Historic District have been minimized and mitigated. Based on the proposed findings of facts and conclusions of law, staff believes the application meets the approval criteria, and therefore we recommend approval with the following condition: that any major changes shall be processed pursuant to the regulations set forth in our historic preservation ordinance. And we did not receive any public input prior to today's meeting. We, of course, noticed as required. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Emily. We appreciate staff's comprehensive report. Are there any questions for staff from commission members?
I do have one question. I think it was recommended, the request was to put a 6-foot tall fence.
So if you can look here, actually on the right-hand side, there is a requirement to install the privacy fence because the required vegetated buffer could not be supplemented due to the existing conditions of the site. So with the existing location of the detached garage, they weren't able to fit enough vegetative matter to meet our ZLDR requirements. So we are able to have them install that fence to reduce the amount of vegetation that they're required to install. So it's just another way to meet our ordinance requirements.
Well, I think the fence is an acceptable thing, but the height I was concerned about. Seems like that 6 foot is that average?
If you're asking me, yes,
4?
6 to 8 feet is what we see most common for fences. And again, the 6 foot is the requirement per the ZLDR.
Oh, 6 feet is definitely required.
Yes, ma'am.
Not 4 feet.
Correct.
You got me on that one.
I didn't try to.
If there are no further questions for staff, we will now hear public comment. Each speaker will be limited to 2 minutes. Please state your name and address before giving your comments. Is the applicant or the applicant's representative present today?
Hello. My name is Brian Cruz, 461 Fleming Road, James Island.
Thank you. You tell us a little bit about your...
Sure, yeah. I think with regards to this board, we're looking at the ramp. So architecturally, we'd like to add the ramp to have ADA access.
Okay. Any questions from commissioners?
Well, I just want to thank him for putting the ADA ramp up. Appreciate that.
I think a couple of people will.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, thank you. If there are no further comments from the public, this case is now closed to public comment. Before discussion, is there a motion and second from the commission? When making a motion, please propose how the findings and conclusions show whether each specific approval criteria for this commission has or has not been met.
Madam Chair, I move to approve the request based on the findings of fact and conclusions of law as presented by staff.
Second.
Made and properly seconded. Is there any discussion from commission members? If there's no further discussion, it is now time for the vote. Stephanie, please call the roll.
On the motion to approve, Commissioner Lisa Jones? Aye. Commissioner Ford?
Aye.
Vice Chair German?
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson?
Aye.
Chair Gardner?
Aye.
Commissioner Gerard? Commissioner Pat Jones?
Aye.
Commissioner Millar? The ayes have it.
The motion passes. This is the final decision of the Historic Preservation Commission. If any person with a substantial interest in a decision of the Historic Preservation Commission chooses to appeal this decision, they may do so to the Circuit Court of Charleston County. Such appeal shall be filed within 30 calendar days after today's date. The next agenda item is HIST-03-26-00184, a request for a certificate of historic appropriateness. Emily, please discuss.
Thank you again. So this CHA request is for the construction of a single-family detached dwelling unit with a drive-under garage at TMS 577-0000-334, 3027 Alfred Campbell Road, and it's a property within the Hamlin Beach Community Historic District. So here are the applications we have received to date within the Hamlin Beach Community Historic District. And this community was adopted by County Council as a historic district in January of last year. And it covers about 293 acres. And the Hamlin Beach community was founded on what was previously plantation land sold through the South Carolina Land Commission to formerly enslaved individuals. And the Hamlin Beach community began in 1881 when that land was subdivided into 30 10-acre lots. So here is the location of the subject property when we're looking at the county overall. And here's the location of the property in relation to the rest of the Hamlin Beach community. And then zooming in a little bit further, you can see it's surrounded entirely by properties within the district. Thus far to date, we have not approved any CHAs within 500 feet of the subject parcel. And the applicant describes the proposed project as a 3,000 square foot elevated 2-story single-family residence on piers and piles with a building footprint of approximately 1,500 square feet. They feel the proposed design is compatible with the Hamlin Beach bungalow tradition, and they call out elements such as the HIF roof with wide overhangs, horizontal lap siding, operable shutters, exposed rafter tails, earth tone materials, and native plantings. The subject property is zoned Special Management S3, and it previously contained a single-family dwelling unit and several accessory structures, but is currently undeveloped as all structures were demolished in 2024. The future land use designation is Urban Suburban Cultural Community Protection. All surrounding properties are also zoned S3 and contain single-family dwelling units or are undeveloped, and the subject parcel is in the AE13 flood zone. And so here is an aerial view of the subject property. And these are photos of the subject property, as well as surrounding properties within the district. There are 2 identified contributing resources that are located within 500 feet of the subject property. Those are Deliverance Tabernacle and the Coakley Chapel. Here is the proposed site plan for the home, and the site plan overlaid onto the aerial map, and the proposed elevations for the home. And these slides show examples of existing elevated homes within the community. Again, commission considerations included for your reference. And staff proposes the following findings of fact. TMS 577-0000-334, also known as 3027 Alfred Campbell Road. 2, the subject parcel does not contain any identified contributing resources. 2 properties containing identified contributing resources are located within 500 feet of the subject parcel. These are the Deliverance Tabernacle and the Coakley Chapel, both historic churches. None of the contributing resources are visible from the subject property. 3, based on the ground elevation, the proposed home must be elevated approximately 11 feet to meet the AE13 flood zone requirements. 4, the proposed home's form is cubic with primarily symmetrical massing, which is a common architectural form seen throughout this area of the Hamlin Beach community. 5, stylistically, the applicant has incorporated elements seen within the Hamlin Beach Community Historic District, including a low-pitched roof, shutters, covered front porch, and double-hung windows. 6, the proposed house placement is consistent with the existing spacing between homes within Hamlin Beach and does not have frontage along an arterial or connector road. And 7, the proposed house orientation facing the rear of existing homes is consistent with other parcels in the historic district that have been developed behind existing homes. The applicant provided responses to all of the approval criteria, and staff proposes the following conclusions of law. Section 21-5I, approval criteria of the Historic Preservation Ordinance, requires all of the following to be met by the applicant. First, the proposed site improvements are compatible with the historic, cultural, and/or architectural character of the applicable historic property or district based on the National Register listing or designation by County Council. 2, proposed site improvements do not decrease the historic integrity of properties containing identified contributing resources. And 3, negative impacts to the applicable historic property or district have been minimized and mitigated. Because of findings of fact 3 through 7, the proposed site improvements may be compatible with the historic, cultural, and architectural character of the Hamlin Beach Community Historic District. Because of finding of fact 2, the proposed site improvements do not decrease the historic integrity of properties containing identified contributing resources. And lastly, because of findings of fact 2 through 7, any negative impacts to the Hamlin Beach Community Historic District have been minimized and mitigated. Based on the proposed findings of fact and conclusions of law, staff believes the application meets the approval criteria. We recommend approval of the application with the following condition: that any major changes be processed pursuant to the regulations set forth in our historic preservation ordinance. We did receive 2 comments in opposition to this request. We also received 2 comments that were about utility easements to the property. And we did, of course, notice as required. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Emily. We appreciate staff's comprehensive report. Are there any questions for staff from commission members?
I have a question. Emily, can you tell us what those comments were concerning the negative comments?
Yes. They are included in the report, but there were several comments that felt that the height, scale, and mass of the structure was not consistent. They also mentioned concerns about precedent setting for the location of the house on the lot being pushed back to the rear with a 15-foot rear setback. Mm-hmm.
Do any other commissioners have comments for staff? Hearing none. I'm sorry, I must have. Okay. I've lost my place. Okay. We will now hear public comment. Each speaker will be limited to 2 minutes. Please state your name and address before giving your comments. Is the applicant or the applicant's representative here today?
Good afternoon, Historical Commission members. My name is Franz Calderon for 1321 Raven Road, and I'm here to just make sure we're doing a contribution to this community and answer any question that maybe you have.
No comments? Yes, go ahead.
Did you meet with the community?
Yes, we walk the community, we talk to some neighbors, and we send a formal email with copy to Emily, to the president of the Hamilton Commission, community.
But you didn't talk with the Hamlin Community Organization?
With some of the neighbors, yes, when we have been visiting the property and everything, yes, and driving around, yeah.
A little bit slower, last part.
Excuse me?
Well, I didn't understand the last part. You said you met with
some
of the...
we have met with some of the neighbors.
But not the association, not the...
No, with the Hamilton Commission, they have like a president. Yes, we send them a formal email to her. We send it to the president, Snipe Richardson. Okay. We send this email to open to meet with her or have answer any question, comment that she have. We send this email on.
Okay, you sent an email and you got a response?
We don't have any response from her. Yeah, we didn't know that we have any comments here.
Okay.
We're willing to answer any comments that maybe they have.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
Okay, if the commissioners do not have any further comments for this applicant, thank you. Do we have any other speakers?
All right, Myra Richardson.
My voice is a little low today, host. My name is Maris Knight Richardson. I am the president of the Hamlin Beach Community Association. This has been a long-going issue with this Pacific property. We talked to them. We asked them to get in touch with the landowners, adjacent landowners, and they were supposed to get back with them. We never saw what they were planning on putting on this lot until it came to us through this email from Charleston County. When you look at the home, well, we want to start with 2024. 2024, and they say there's no trees in the pathway of this home. They cut down a live oak tree, 27-inch live oak tree, in order to create that 20-foot right-of-way to get to the second lot. When they were before you, they asked to divide the lot from a 1-acre lot to a .35. The .35 lot at this address, when you look at the home we're asking, when were they granted variance? From my understanding, it's a 25-foot in the front, 25 in the back, 15 off of the side. This home extends 15 feet or 10 feet into that 25 feet setback. My question to this board, if you approve this home and this design, this will set a precedent not just for our community, but for Charleston County wide, that the developer can come in, cut down trees in order to have the right-of-way, ask for a smaller lot, and place a home on the lot that's oversized. So how is this house compatible with our neighborhood when it encroaches in the right-of-way or the setbacks? They asked for a lot. They knew what they were buying. They knew the design of the lot because it looks like a little puzzle piece. They should not be approved because of the size of the house.
Thank you.
Carlton Flood.
Hello, my name is Carlton Flood, and reside at 2724 Hamlin Beach Road. I'm one of the servant easement owner on this lot. This is my first time even seeing this gentleman that bought the lot right behind me. First of all, you're trying to bring out water and sewer through Alpha Camel Road, which he had never even talked to me or my cousin in the back. But he wants to put water and sewer down the road. But he has a dedicated easement from Atlanta Drive. Why he chooses to come down Alpha Camel Road, I do not know. And also, if you allow him to do water and sewer down Alpha Camel Road, it will disrupt us from getting into our lots, and that is not fair. Not only that, my cousin and I pay the property tax every year, but how this guy can come in and have the right to run water down Alpha Camel Road when he chooses not to use the dedicated easement that he has coming from Atlanta Drive, because he does not want to spend the money to put the work in to get what he needs to get to that lot. It is not fair. That's all I have to say.
Thank you for your comments.
Sam Spence.
Hello, Commissioners. I'm Sam Spence from the Preservation Society of Charleston. The Preservation Society is opposed to the request for the CHA for 3027 Alfred Campbell for failing to meet approval criteria and being inconsistent with the county comp plan. The general scale and mass of this structure appear to be incompatible with the immediate context, as you saw in the presentation, which is predominantly 1- and 2-story buildings, even among those that are elevated. The site plans also show the building, as Myra mentioned, extending beyond the porch structure, extending beyond the rear setback. And I know y'all may not be charged with setbacks, but it might be good to get a clarification on what can extend over a setback. Either way, this rear porch, as proposed, expands the building's overall scale and mass with its roof structure. And since the building proposed is on an interior parcel, its inappropriate scale, mass, and arrangement will particularly have a negative impact on the historic context. Additionally, the scale, mass, and arrangement of the proposed plan is inconsistent with the county's comprehensive plan, which the future land use description for this area states that future development should be compatible with the existing land uses and development patterns. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Conrado Mendez.
Good afternoon, members of the Commission. My name is Conrado Mendez. I will be very brief. This application were not draft once and submitted. Since late March, we worked through multiple rounds and detailed comments from Ms. Fidget, the President, and planning and zoning and staff, and we addressed every single one, revised house forms, so the two houses aren't too similar, corrected the flood zone elevated design to the property, shown step massing and lattice screening, aligned our rendering exactly with our elevations. We located 3 barricades to meet the county's radius standard, and we remain willing to follow staff guidance on exterior materials, including the stone question. This application reflects months of staff guide revision, not at the first draft. We also reached out the Hamlet Beach Community Association directly, using contact information Ms. Fidget provided to introduce the project as a courtesy. We received no objection back through that channel. We respect that this commission role is to evaluate compliance with the published design and historic preservation standards, nothing else. If any comment raised tonight points to a specific permission we haven't met, we are glad to address. It's just we address every prior staff comment with simple ask to any objection be grounded in the code, not in opinion. We respectfully ask the Commission to approve this application based on the full record. Thank you so much. And only a very, very minimum comment about the easement.
Thank you for your comments. Your time has expired. Your time has expired.
Can I have this 2 seconds for the easement?
No, sir.
Did you get time to other people to explain a little
Oh,
more?
I just gave you a little bit of extra time just to finish the little bit that you did.
Thank you so much.
But thank you.
I appreciate your time.
Absolutely. Do we have any others? Okay, thank you. We appreciate the comments from everyone today. And just as a reminder that although there may have been some attempts to meet with the community, it might be worth maybe revisiting and having those conversations again to understand the community that you're moving into, because these are districts that have been designated, and we want to make sure that as we make our decisions that it's I think helpful to get the feedback from the community and to understand exactly how to work with them and to get their feedback and to understand exactly how the community works, how the community looks as you are designing your structure for your home on your property. So just wanted to add those comments myself. At this point, if there are no further comments from public, the case is now closed to public comment. Before discussion, is there a motion and second from the commission? When making a motion, please propose how the findings and conclusions show whether each specific approval criteria for this commission has or has not been met.
I'll make a motion. I'd like to make a motion to defer this application based on the height, scale, and mass not being compatible with the architectural character of the context of the historic district, as well as clarifications need to be made to the setback requirements.
Second.
Made and properly seconded. Is there any discussion from commission members?
Do we have specific requests that they confer with, so we know if they've, when they come back, rather than just talk to people, what are we asking them to talk about specifically? Because they did say specifically, we're happy to talk to people, but it has to be within the code, not opinions. So what are the specific requests that the commission is making to these people?
Go ahead.
Yeah, well, just to clarify, my motion did not specify that they need to meet with people. But always, just for a point of discussion, meeting with the neighbors is always helpful. My motion was about deferring for further study of the height, scale, and mass of the neighbors, looking at the structures and making it more compatible with the neighborhood.
Thank you, Commissioner Jones. And Emily, could you also just clarify for us the setbacks?
I thought you'd never ask. So I did a mock-up here to show you, and this was reviewed by our zoning administrator. So everything in red are the setback requirements. So since this has an easement coming from the side, it's considered a double frontage. So it would be two fronts and then technically two sides, no rear. So that's how they're getting the 15 feet on either side here. And then just a reminder that our ordinance has changed fairly recently, and if it's less than a 50-foot wide ingress-egress easement, that distance can be measured from the center line. I did do it conservatively. I did it from the edge just to show you, but it is currently meeting the ZLDR.
Okay, thank you. If there's no further discussion at this time from commissioners, it is now time for the vote. Stephanie, please call the roll.
On the motion to defer, Commissioner Lisa Jones. Commissioner Ford.
No.
Vice Chair German.
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson. Aye. Chair Gardner.
Aye.
Commissioner Gerard. Aye. Commissioner Pat Jones.
Aye.
Commissioner Millar. The motion passes 7-1.
Thank you. This is the final decision of the Historic Preservation Commission. If any person with a substantial interest in a decision of the Historic Preservation Commission chooses to appeal this decision, they may do so to the Circuit Court of Charleston County. Such appeals shall be filed within 30 calendar days after today's date. The next agenda item is HIST 03-26-00185, a request for a certificate of historic appropriateness. Emily, please discuss.
Thank you very much. So this CHA request is also for the construction of a single-family detached dwelling unit with drive-under garage at TMS 577-000041, 3047 Alfred Campbell Road, and it is also a property within the Hamlin Beach Community Historic District. And again, these are all the applications we've received to date within the district. Just to reiterate, this district was designated by County Council in January of last year, and the Hamlin Beach community currently covers about roughly 293 acres, and it was founded on what was previously plantation land sold through that South Carolina Land Commission to formerly enslaved individuals. And the community was founded in 1881 when that land began to be subdivided into 30 10-acre lots. So once again, here's the location of the subject property. And then the location of the subject property in relation to the Hamlin Beach Community Historic District. And zooming in once again, you can see it is entirely surrounded by properties within the Hamlin Beach Community Historic District. There have been no CHAs approved by the Commission within 300 feet of the subject parcel. The applicant describes that the proposed project consists of a 2-story elevated single-family residence with a total of 3,066 square foot of heated space. The building footprint is 2,420 square feet, and the applicant feels the proposed design is compatible with the Hamlin Beach bungalow tradition that includes hip roofs with wide overhangs, horizontal lap siding, operable shutters, rafter tails, earth tone materials, and native plantings. Once again, the subject property is zoned Special Management S3 and is undeveloped. The future land use designation is Urban Suburban Cultural Community Protection. All surrounding properties are also zoned S3, and they do contain either single-family dwelling units or are undeveloped. And the subject parcel is in the AE 13 flood zone. So here is an aerial view of that subject property. These are site photos of the subject property and photos of surrounding properties. There are 3 contributing resources within 500 feet of this property. Those include Deliverance Tabernacle, the Coakley Chapel, and Benjamin's Sweet Shop. Once again, here is the proposed site plan. And the proposed site plan overlaid onto the aerial map for context. The proposed house elevations. And examples of existing elevated homes within the community. Commission considerations for your reference. And staff is proposing the following findings of fact. TMS 577-00-00041, also known as 3047 Alfred Campbell Road. 2, the subject parcel does not contain any identified contributing resources. 3 properties containing identified contributing resources are located within 500 feet of the subject property. These include Deliverance Tabernacle, the Coakley Chapel, both historic churches, and Benjamin's Sweet Shop. None of the contributing resources are visible from the subject property. 3, based on ground elevation, the proposed home must be elevated approximately 9 feet to meet the AE 13 flood zone requirements. The applicant has chosen to elevate an additional 2 feet, creating consistency with the proposed home that was just deferred on the neighboring lot. The proposed home's form is cubic with symmetrical massing, which is a common architectural form seen throughout this area of the Hamlin Beach community. Historic districts, particularly their millennial mansions that were built between the late 1990s and early 2000s. 5, stylistically, the applicant has incorporated elements of minimal traditional design seen within the Hamlin Beach Community Historic District, including low-pitched roof, shutters, covered front porch, double-hung windows, and minimal architectural detailing. 6, the proposed house placement is consistent with existing spacing between homes within the Hamlin Beach community and does not have frontage along an arterial or connector road. And 7, the proposed house orientation, which it's proposed to face the rear of existing homes, is consistent with other parcels in the historic district that have been developed behind existing structures. The applicant did also provide responses to all of the approval criteria, and staff proposes the following conclusions of law. Section 21-5I, approval criteria of our historic preservation ordinance, requires all of the following to be met by the applicant. First, the proposed site improvements must be compatible with the historic, cultural, and/or architectural character of the applicable historic property or district based on that National Register listing or designation by County Council. 2, the proposed site improvements do not decrease the historic integrity of properties containing identified contributing resources. And 3, any negative impacts to the applicable historic property or district have been minimized and mitigated. Because of findings of fact 3 through 7, the proposed site improvements may be compatible with the historic, cultural, and/or architectural character of the Hamlin Beach Community Historic District. Because of finding of fact 2, the proposed site improvements do not decrease the historic integrity of properties containing identified contributing resources. And lastly, because of findings of facts 2 through 7, any negative impacts to the Hamlin Beach Community Historic District have been minimized and mitigated. Based on those proposed findings of fact and conclusions of law, staff believes the application meets the approval criteria, and we are recommending approval with the following condition: that any major changes be processed pursuant to the regulations set forth in the Historic Preservation Ordinance. We did receive 2 comments in opposition to this request, and we did notice as required. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Emily. We appreciate staff's comprehensive report. Are there any questions for staff from commission members? We will now hear public comment. Each speaker will be limited to 2 minutes. Please state your name and address before giving your comments. Is the applicant or the applicant's representative here today?
My name is Franz Calderon, 1321 Raven Road, and I would like to address the comments that we had before. That is the same. We haven't removed any trees at all in the property, so that resolved that comment, and we have a licensed professional survey done, and that was submitted in our application. The second question is about the water and sewer on the Alfred Campbell Road. It's very important to confirm there were 2 existing homes in these lots. So it's already water and sewer right there. So we are not disturbing anything. So that is extremely, extremely important. The other one is about the setback requirements. We work very, very diligent. We thank you, Emily. She was very professional and all the zoning and planning, and we met all the requirements. We work a lot with engineers and architects to meet these requirements. And about the elevations as well, the elevation of the house is only because we have to meet the flood zone requirements. For us, we prefer don't have an elevated home, but that is a requirement that we have to meet, and it's for that reason of this. Those will be resolving all 4 comments that we have for these 2 properties.
Thank you. Any comments from commissioners for the applicant? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Myra Richardson.
Good day, Myra Richardson, 2755 Earl Johnson Lane. A code report violation PLN 07-24-01254. It was a violation of cutting down a 27-inch oak tree on this lot. The fine was $6,240. There were an existing home on that lot. That lot only had a house that had a septic. They never had access to the sewer line. Mr. Flood and Ms. Snipe, owners of Alfred Campbell Road, which is a private road, they have been in contact before years ago and were threatened to get an attorney to sue them, to force them to give them the right of way for the sewer. Mr. Flood contacted Mount Pleasant Waterworks to inform them that there was not a utility and easement on that property. It's an ingress, egress, and easement. This property is right next to the Copley Chapel ponds. We would like to have a conversation with them on how they're going to mitigate anything around that pond. In fact, when you said 15 feet off of the setback, if you go another 2 feet, you will be in the pond. So when this developer said he reached out to us to have a conversation to show us the plan for this house, they did not reach out to us for this part of it. When it comes down to delivery, this lot, the configuration of this lot, they will impact Mr. Flood and Ms. Knight. How are they going to get materials in and out to do anything on this property without encroaching on their property? Those are the conversations that should be had with the community. Once again, the size of the lot compared to what they're building on it because of this new regulation with the setback does not fit this community and honestly does not fit Charleston County.
Thank you for your comments.
Carlton Flood.
Carlton Flood, 2724 Hamlin Beach Road. I've reached out personally to the commissioner, not the commissioner, but Charleston County, concerning the egress to this property. And no one could tell me anything about this egress. So I reached out to my attorney and was told the only way this guy could run water and sewer down that road, I and Ms. Campbell and Ms. Snipe would have to give them permission. He do not have the right. He has a designated right coming from Atlanta Drive. That is the way he's supposed to get his water and sewer, not down Alpha Camel Road. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Sam Spence.
Commissioners, Sam Spence again from the Preservation Society. For some of the same reasons as 3027, we opposed the issuance of the CHA for 3047 Alfred Campbell Road for failing to meet approval criteria and being inconsistent with the county's comprehensive plan. The general scale and mass of this structure appear to be incompatible with its immediate context as well, which is predominantly 1- and 2-story buildings, even among elevated houses. Since the building is proposed on an interior parcel, its inappropriate scale, mass, and arrangement, those are terms pulled from a commission consideration in the Historic Preservation Ordinance, will have a particularly negative impact on its historic context. Additionally, the scale, mass, and arrangement of the proposed plan is inconsistent with the property's comp plan future land use description, which states that future development should be compatible with the existing land uses and development patterns. Thanks.
Thank you.
Conrado Mendez.
Dear Commission, I'm a person who loves to use the common sense.
Oh, please state your name and address.
Yes,
Thanks.
Conrado Mendez. I'm representing the developers. The situation is this. I'm super respectful for the Commission and use the common sense. The common sense says this. This house, this lot, passed subdivision approval prior with other people that were involved in that project. They are no more involved in this project, and we are taking care of this. We are here because a subdivision has been approved, and the subdivision, in the subdivision, my understanding of seeing the records in the subdivision approval, everything about the easement has been discussed and approved by the Commission that there was no problem with that easement. It's more, the town of Mount Pleasant Waterworks, there's no any issue about to really make something in that easement regarding to provide sewer and water to those properties. Other thing that is important, prior there was 2 properties in those lots. I mean, that never was an empty lot. For the reason here, there's several things that has been solved before for the same Commission. For the reason we don't understand exactly why we are focusing in something that you as a Commission have approved before. Here, my understanding is to see if the properties are following the code, and the planning and zoning is saying, yes, we are seeing this, we were back and forth numerous times, right, trying to follow the code, and the code has been followed. And what my understanding is, your concern is about the house, is the house is following the historic criteria. This is what we were working with the planning and zoning for a long time. This is what we did. We followed the code, and the code is really followed completely.
Thank you for your comments. And just for clarification, we're here to review, as you did mention, matters pertaining to the architecture of your design, and because this is a designated historic district. And Emily, if you want to just briefly just go over what some of the requirements are that they may have met or not met in terms of their proposal, but
in terms, you would like me to repeat the proposed conclusions of law?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. So staff is proposing the following. If you don't mind, I'll just reference that it's the 3 approval criteria in the beginning. And so staff is proposing, based on findings of fact 3 through 7, that the proposed site improvements may be compatible with the historic, cultural, and or architectural character of the Hamlin Beach Community Historic District. Because of finding of fact 2, the proposed site improvements do not decrease the historic integrity of properties containing identified contributing resources. And lastly, because of findings of fact 2 through 7, any negative impacts to the Hamlin Beach Community Historic District have been minimized and mitigated.
Thank you. If there are no further comments from the public, this case is now closed to public comment. Before discussion, is there a motion and second from the commission? When making a motion, please propose how the findings and conclusions show whether each specific approval criteria for this commission has or has not been met.
I'll make the motion. So we you want to make it?
I was about to.
Yeah, do it. I'd love
Okay.
for you to.
I move to defer the request based on the findings of facts and conclusion of law as presented by staff.
And I'll second that motion.
Motion has been made and properly seconded. Is there any discussion from commission members?
I've got some discussion here. I believe this is a similar situation, obviously. There are just some things that need to be changed. This is a historically designated community, and you have to understand that there are requirements in order to build there, okay? And again, you know, I don't know who your real estate agent was, how you purchased the property, but that should have been discussed. Because there are additional requirements to build in these type of communities that are not the norm. So I respect the fact that you're here. I appreciate the fact that you're here. I believe that, you know, you say you work with Emily and the rest of the staff, and they're amazing, and they can give you the directives I believe you need. So I hope that you'll be able to follow those directives and, you know, make yourself a beautiful home in this community, because it is an amazing place to live. So. Sir, it's not about the neighbors. It's about making sure that your structure meets the requirements for the building architecture, and that is our role, to look at that particular scenario. And again, Emily and her staff can guide you a lot better than we can as a board right now. So
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you, Commissioner Millar, for that clarification. As Commissioner Millar specified, it's important to work with Emily as well as getting some guidance from us in terms of and the community, specifically talking with them, but also maybe in the proposal, the motion that you made, giving some specific direction on the height, just the design, more of the design, to give them some guidance so that when they come back at the next meeting, they'll have an idea of what their setback should be, of what the height of the roof should be. If we can offer some guidance there, that might be helpful for the applicant. Well, we're gonna offer some information to you in terms of what that will be, and we can get that back to you, get that information back to you.
No more comments. We're ready to vote. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, if there's no further discussion, it is now time to vote for the motion to defer. Stephanie, we can't. It's at this time. It's closed. Not at this time. We're moving on. At this time, sir. I'm sorry. We're moving on.
The motion to defer. Commissioner Lisa Jones? Aye. Commissioner Ford?
No.
Vice Chair German?
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson?
Aye.
Chair Gardner?
Aye.
Commissioner Gerard? Commissioner Pat Jones?
Aye.
Commissioner Millar?
Aye.
The motion to defer passes 7-1.
Thank you. This is the final decision of the Historic Preservation Commission. If any person with a substantial interest in a decision of the Historic Preservation Commission chooses to appeal this decision, they may do so to the Circuit Court of Charleston County. Such appeals shall be filed within 30 calendar days after today's date. The next agenda item is HIST 04-26-00186, a request for a certificate of historic appropriateness. Emily, please discuss.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to present the last CHA that you'll be reviewing today. And it is for the construction of an accessory dwelling unit and an in-ground swimming pool with elevated spa on TMS 15300000017, also known as 1844 Leadenwaugh Drive. And it is a property listed on the National Register of Historic Places. So here is the location of the property on Wadmalaw when we're looking at the county as a whole. And just a reminder, the property is listed on the National Register of Historic Places because it contains a historic bridge that is known as the John Seabrook Plantation Bridge. And to give you a little backstory, circa 1782, John Seabrook built a ferry and stagecoach tavern on this property at the banks of Leadenwaugh Creek. A highway to this landing was then constructed around the same time, allowing the tavern and its landing to become an integral part of the transportation system that connected the city of Charleston with the coastal islands. An arched bridge was the means by which the highway crossed the draw that exists on the property, and the bridge is only one of 2 brick bridges in the Charleston area that are known to be built before the Civil War. The bridge is constructed of brick veneer and American bond, enclosed fill mixture of crushed oyster shells and rammed earth. The original road was probably surfaced with a crushed shell compound, and the road was probably used for commercial transportation of rice and indigo from plantation to market through the first quarter of the 19th century. By that time, the importance of these plantations on the Sea Islands was sharply declining, and as a result, the road and the bridge fell into disuse. So the applicant describes that the project involves a near-grade level pool with a hard surface stone pool surround. The deck will be approximately 7 inches lower than the connecting existing wooden deck portion of the existing main house. On this new pool deck level, there is also planning to be a 2-story, they describe it as a diminutive pool house. The pool house will support pool and exterior living activities as well as storage for pool items, boat and water accessories. All exterior finishes and materials for the pool house will match those of the existing modern house, which was built in 2019. The pool house has approximately 2,000 square feet of conditionable space, and the contributing resource again is that historic stone bridge that leads to a small freshwater retention area. All new and existing structures, including the main house, sit over 200 feet away from this resource with trees and garden bushes nestled between. So the subject property is zoned agricultural preservation AG 15, and it contains a single-family dwelling unit and several accessory structures, as well as that historic plantation bridge. The future land use designation is Wadmalaw Agricultural Preservation. All surrounding properties are also zoned AG 15, and they contain single-family dwelling units or agricultural uses. And the subject parcel is in the AE9 shaded X and X flood zones. So here's an aerial view of the subject property and photos of the subject property taken from Leadenwaugh Drive and photos of surrounding properties along Leadenwaugh Drive. So here is that proposed site plan. And there is the proposed site plan overlaid on the aerial map. I do just want to point out the red rectangle that you see, that is the historic bridge. Oh, yeah, that is. I don't know why when I press that goes back, but it's right here if you can see my cursor.
Okay.
All right, so the applicant provided the following 3D views, and I do just want to clarify that, the top you're seeing the existing main house, on the bottom left you're seeing the proposed improvements, and then on the right-hand side all together with the proposed improvements in green. And here you can see the proposed front elevations, and in each of these elevations I have circled the portion that is proposed today. Everything else is existing. Again, included for your reference, commission considerations. Staff proposes the following findings of fact. TMS 153-00000017, 1844 Leadenwall Drive. 2, the John Seabrook Plantation Bridge is a historic structure on the property that is listed on the National Register of Historic Places. 3, existing buildings on the subject property include a single-family detached dwelling and agricultural accessory structures, all of which are not historic and do not culturally, historically, or architecturally relate to the John Seabrook Plantation Bridge, apart from maintaining the rural nature of the site. 4, the proposed new construction will complement the existing single-family detached dwelling in design and materials, as well as be subordinate to the existing home through size and placement. 5, the proposed new construction will be sited approximately 230 feet from the historic structure and nestled between existing grand trees in a placement that does meet the ZLDR's tree protection regulations. 6, visibility between the historic structure and proposed new construction will be obscured by existing vegetation, which will remain and assist in maintaining the John Seabrook Plantation Bridge's historic setting. And 7, construction equipment will not cross the historic bridge to obtain access to the build site. The applicant did provide responses to the approval criteria, and staff is proposing the following conclusions of law. First, Section 21-5I approval criteria of the Historic Preservation Ordinance requires all of the following approval criteria to be met by the applicant. 1, the proposed site improvements are compatible with the historic, cultural, and/or architectural character of the applicable historic property based on the National Register listing. 2, the proposed site improvements do not decrease the historic integrity of properties containing identified contributing resources. And 3, any negative impacts to the applicable historic property have been minimized or mitigated. Because of findings of fact 2 through 4, the proposed site improvements may be compatible with the historic, cultural, and/or architectural character of the John Seabrook Plantation Bridge historic property. Because of findings of fact 2 through 6, the proposed site improvements do not decrease the historic integrity of properties containing identified contributing resources. And lastly, because of findings of fact 6 and 7, any negative impacts to the John Seabrook Plantation Bridge historic property have been minimized and mitigated. Based on those proposed findings of fact and conclusions of law, staff does believe the application meets the approval criteria and is recommending approval with the following condition: that any major changes be processed pursuant to the regulations set forth in the Historic Preservation Ordinance. We did receive one comment in support prior to today's meeting, and we, of course, noticed as required. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Emily. We appreciate staff's comprehensive report. Are there any questions for staff from commission members? Now hear public comment. Each speaker will be limited to 2 minutes. Please state your name and address before giving your comments. Is the applicant or the applicant's representative here today?
I'm Ron Denton, the architect for the Chisholms who reside at 1844 Leadenwall Road. My office address is 806 Johnny Dodds Boulevard, just for completeness. We were asked to design a in-ground pool and pool house for a home that the Chisholms had just recently bought, long before we appreciated the historicalness of the bridge on site. This is a 10-acre piece of property that feels very much like, to me, Magnolia Gardens. It's very well landscaped, very well preserved and manicured, and the bridge is a little folly, if you will, off into the middle of the property that crosses over a freshwater retention area. The house and our proposed diminutive pool house, that's height, scale, and mass. I wish those people could have stuck around to see what height, scale, and mass can do. It's well reflective of the house that's there. It is subordinated, and it is far away from this bridge. This room's probably 50 feet deep, so you're talking 5 times the distance away through oak trees, magnolia trees, bushes, and shrubs. It's a great the bridge is a great thing to walk to appreciate, and there still is a pathway that crosses the bridge on both sides. So we're keeping within the historical context of the property as we perceive it. It is more of a agricultural horse setting that we've maintained, and now hopefully they'll be able to enjoy their new home in view of the creek with their pool house and in-ground pool. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, do commissioners have any questions for the applicant?
I have a question.
Okay, go ahead.
Who maintains the bridge? Is it just a stone bridge that has been around for a long time? I mean, is that how it's maintained?
Right.
Who maintains it?
The Chisholms haven't owned the property for a year yet.
Okay, well, I'm just...
They do maintain an arborist and landscape crew. So this is a very meticulously kept piece of property. The bridge, we knew it was there. We didn't know quite its historical significance. I am sure it will be held up with perhaps the builder who's going to hopefully build this pool house. And, historic brickwork, which if you've been in town for any length of time, tuck pointing brick is an old-time Charleston thing, and that's basically what you'd want to preserve and do it properly. I mean, you don't want to inject something that's going to impact cracks and create more damage than it solves.
Assuming that property such as this, they would be taking good care of all the different components. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions from commissioners? Okay. Thank you so much. If there are no other speakers at this time, to public comment. Before discussion, is there a motion and second from the commission? When making a motion, please propose how the findings and conclusions show whether each specific approval criteria has or has not been met.
Madam Chair, I move to approve the request based on the findings of fact and conclusions of law as presented by staff.
I second.
Motion has been made and properly seconded. Is there any discussion from commission members? Hearing none, it is now time for the vote. Stephanie, please call the roll.
On the motion to approve, Commissioner Lisa Jones? Aye. Commissioner Ford?
Aye.
Vice Chair German?
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson?
Aye.
Chair Gardner? Commissioner Gerard? Aye. Commissioner Pat Jones?
Aye.
Commissioner Millar?
Aye.
The ayes have it.
Final decision of the Historic Preservation Commission. If any person with a substantial interest in a decision of the Historic Preservation Commission chooses to appeal this decision, they may do so to the Circuit Court of Charleston County. Such appeal shall be filed within 30 calendar days after today's date. If there's no further business, this meeting of the Charleston County Historic Preservation Commission stands adjourned. And the commission will hold its next regular scheduled meeting on July 15th, 2026 at 2 p.m. in council chambers.